Assalamu alaikum, girls and guys. This is Mustanir Lodhi from Department of English, Bahauddin Zikri University, Multan. Today, in this lecture, I'll be talking about Ted Hughes as a poet. Edward James Hughes, who was famous as Ted Hughes, was a giant of a writer. Such a great poet that in 20th century, I don't think that any other poet was like him. It was not his works, it was his personality as well. There are so many reasons to praise him. There are so many reasons which uh, people find attractive to look into his life, to look into his works, the way he has lived, the way he has written, the way he has mesmerized. That is so much strong, so much effective that he will live in the pages of history for times to come. Born in 1930, a British poet, was basically not much interested in poetry as a youngster, rather, not much interested in learning about literature as a student. He studied archaeology and anthropology in Cambridge University. This was very different. But his personal interest in nature, the way he found that connection with elements of nature around him, and initially he was fond of hunting, going outdoors, camping, staying in the nature, but very unlike William Wordsworth, his reaction to the beauties of nature was very different. He started his career in Royal Air Force, and then he joined Cambridge. That was the time when he met Sylvia Plath. We know a very famous poetess from America. Both of them got married. This was the time when he started writing prose, poetry, other types of literature, especially he wrote books for children, and he tried his hand on translating certain classical works of Ovid, Aeschylus, and that was basically one of the reasons that we find a great depth in the structure of his poetry. So, if we talk about his life as a person, he had a very dynamic, very strong, and very strange life, which is intriguing to many people. And personally speaking, uh, I, as a student, when I studied in university as a student, I found him a very mysterious character. A great number of works ascribed to him, which people think, which written by him, uh, were so many numbers that it seems as if he spent all his life writing on paper. Uh, he wrote books, he wrote poems, he wrote stories, he translated classical works. He was such a strong person. But on the other hand, he had a very difficult personal life. Sylvia Plath, his first wife, we know she committed suicide in 1963. And the lady, which was basically under suspicion that Sylvia Plath thought that he was cheating on her, was Asia Wevel. Asia Wevel, and she also committed suicide in 1969. That was a very strange thing. His wife committed suicide, And the lady for which he left his wife committed suicide, not only committed suicide, but murdered their own daughter as well. And then the very next year, in 1970, he got married again. That might be something which may throw some light on his character, on his ability to conjure magic when in social circles. Well, talking about his poems, talking about the way he wrote his poem, the way he tackled uh, different themes, he was very different from the other writers of his times. He was writing poetry in a very different and experimental manner. The types of themes which were very popular and common in his days were entirely absent in his poems. He saw this world from a different and a very oblique perspective. When we talk about nature, we see that almost in every poem, we see a very strong backdrop of nature in Ted Hughes' poetry. But the way he described nature, the way he looked at nature, was entirely different from his predecessors and his contemporaries as well. So we look at him from a perspective of creating a new order of writing poetry that was really something that really made him one of the greatest poets of 20th century, rather the greatest poet of the 20th century. He, as I've told you earlier, was very fond of going out, staying outdoors. He was fond of hunting as well. That gave him a lot of time to make that contact with nature, which later on proved to be an asset, which he used to translate those feelings, to translate those ideas which he felt while he was in the lap of nature. He was one of those people. Uh, Another writer, if I'm not wrong, uh, was Byron. We know that there are certain strong elements of softness of nature, along with William Wordsworth is a very common name. Then we have Coleridge, that mythological mystery of Coleridge was present in his poems. And the way he treated nature was different in the sense that he was not interested in bringing about the uh, physical aspects. Rather, he was more interested in writing about the essences of nature, the bare minimum, the most enjoyable parts of nature. Uh, that's why we see him producing a specific type of poetry which was not there in his times. We see different animals. We see different qualities of those animals present in his poems. Uh, we have in our coming lecture the thought fox, which I'll be talking about very soon. It is basically based upon that essence of wildness which is present in nature. So it is not that nurturing lap of the mother sort of an idea, or that cruelty of natural forces which is present in Robert Frost. He is different in many ways. So one of the basic differences is that he is more into the intriguing part, the internal fellowship of nature. So this is basically uh, all about him. Uh, he wrote poems which were full of philosophical thought, very hard to grasp the ideas which he presented, because, like other modern poets of his times, he was writing in a way which was which was experimental, which was very not very difficult to understand, but it requires a very subtle sensibility to understand. So this is all about Ted Hughes. Thank you very much.